let's talk about Adamera. We're in Washington State. We're about 5.5 hours drive from Vancouver, right in this area, just south of the border and just south of Osoyoos. The area sits within something called the Boundary Gold District, where there's been about 18 million ounces of gold produced. And the important thing is, in this area, in Washington State, 8 million of those ounces have come from that district. But what's really important is the grade here. You've got some really high grades, and that's the reason why we're there. We've got a number of projects here: Buckhorn 2.0, Empire Creek, South Headley, Talisman, and Flag Hill. Talisman is not a gold project. It is a silver and copper project. I won't talk about all those projects today. I'm just going to talk about these three, and I'm going to focus and start off with Flag Hill. Before that, though, where do those 8 million ounces come from? This is really around the Republic area, and it's a great district. A lot of that gold comes from the Republic Graben or the Toronto Graben. Here's the most recent mine that has shut down in 2017. That was mined by Kinross. It's called the Buckhorn Mine. They produced 1.3 million ounces of gold at an average grade of about 13 grams per ton. Kinross is currently working on something called the K2. It's a mine that they produced up until the early 2000s. They've gone back. They've rumored to have found over 1 million ounces, and the other rumor is they're looking at going back into production here, and that's really good for us because we have land near that. Cook Mountain, an area we've worked in, another 1 million ounces comes from that area, but this is one of the key areas, and it's where Nob Hill was. It's the Republic Gold District, and we've got projects in there I'll talk about. Before that, here's something. It's a mill. It's owned by Kinross. It can produce 2,000 tons per day. That mill is currently on care and maintenance, but I think that's a really important part for this district. It's a built-in exit strategy for us, but it's nice to have that kind of infrastructure. We've got projects around Buckhorn, as I mentioned, south of K2 along the same structure, and projects in Nob Hill. And let's take a look at the Nob Hill area. Okay, so this is in the Republic District. It's 4 million ounces, more than 4 million ounces of gold. Average grade, 24 grams per ton. That mine ran for 100 years. It also has 15 million ounces of silver at a grade of 110 grams per ton. Flag Hill sits up here. We've had that for a number of years. And what we announced yesterday is another project called Flag Hill South, which I will talk about shortly. Key thing is here, this district has produced a lot of gold. It's associated with what's called the Bacon Creek Fault, which is essentially the western margin of that graben. But you'll see that in a lot of the projects that we've got. Here's the original Flag Hill property. This is a epithermal style deposit. At the bottom, you can see some historical work that was done in 1957, a drill hole. It's probably the one of two drill holes on that property that we know of. It intersected 41 grams per ton gold with 277 grams per ton silver at a depth of about 100 meters, maybe a little bit less, and that is over about a meter or so, that intersection. Further to the west, you see the Flag Hill. It's a historic mine. It was relatively small. It was mined in the 1930s up to the 1940s. It probably wasn't really that exciting at the time because it was only 7 grams per ton and 21 grams per ton silver. Back then gold was only worth $20, but also Nob Hill was producing bonanza grades. So that was left to sit for an awful long time. What we like about it is there's a lot of veins on this property that have not been tested. And if you look at some of the numbers, here's a vein with 5.9 grams. I'm just going to give you a kind of a flavor of what we're looking at. And these are grades that you're seeing on the surface. They haven't been tested, and typically in this type of deposit, if you're looking at epithermal, at least in this district, you want to go down, if you're in the upper parts of this system, you want to drill down to depth and see if you can find the high-grade zones. You want to see it widen and the grades increase to bonanza-style grades. Just south of that is something we call now the Flag Hill South. This is new to us. We announced it yesterday. Here you've got 10-foot wide zone. It's silica and shearing, runs 9.1 gram per ton. This is a project that we've been pursuing for about 4 years, and it's private land. the landowner didn't have mineral rights. So we essentially walked him through the process. He got his mineral rights over a period of about 2 years. And just as we were ready to close the deal, Kinross came in and sampled his ground and got a first right for 2 years. And it really locked us out. And we walked away. Kinross, that agreement came up in July of this year. And they wanted to extend their first right, and he decided, no, that's not what he's after. And it was about that time we reapproached him, and we were able to close this deal. And this is a really interesting deal because, A, it's got a number of quartz veins, some good values on surface. It's private land, and we can start drilling this in October. So we're closing a financing right now, and some of those funds will be going to drilling this in October. Okay. K2 is right here, just as a reminder. This is where Kinross is currently exploring. We have a project called Empire Creek, and we've had this for a number of years. It's along that same Bacon Creek fault, and it's about 6 kilometers south of where Kinross is putting together a fairly decent resource. Now, here's the Bacon Creek Fault again. This is a contour map showing gold values in soil. Those red areas they're in the order of 0.25 grams per ton gold. But it's really quite interesting because that trend emanates from the Bacon Creek Fault and runs into the property more than 1 kilometer. And it gives us a number of targets along these cross-cutting structures. These are targets that have never been looked at, never been explored. And what excites me about this is, if you look over here, that star, that's a drill hole that had 10 grams per ton gold, 183 grams per ton silver, and over 15 meters. So a really nice looking target. This is something that we will be getting our permits lined up and something we'd like to drill early next year. Here's that same property. The green behind it is an image that shows the arsenic, and you can see disturbances in the arsenic in that area we were just looking at. Those contours are gold. You can see the high drill hole, but we have another one just south of that, which, here's 1.35 grams per ton gold over 17 meters, and that has not been followed up yet. So these are really interesting properties for us. Now let's take a look here. This is the Buckhorn. It's just outside of the Terota Graben. This is a mine that Kinross mined. They had this and mined it from 2008 to about 2017. They mined 1.3 million ounces of gold, averaging about a 13 gram per ton grade. This mine made them a lot of money. And once the mine resource was done, they were quite frustrated because they were unable to attain permits to explore exploration targets outside of that mine area. So they dropped the ground. We picked it up. We went to them, bought their exploration data for a royalty, and we went to work and started developing targets. And we've come up with about 40 plus targets on that. We've got 17 of those targets permitted. We expect to see another 3 to 5 of those come up in the next couple of weeks to a month. We have already drilled 4 targets, and this is where it gets kind of interesting. We've drilled 4 targets with a very tight budget, but one of those targets produced some gold values in the 4 grams per ton gold over, some respectable distances. This is not what we're looking for, but it's absolutely warranting follow-up drilling. So when we go out and start drilling again, we would like to put 4 or 5 holes into this. This is only 800 meters from the mine. Talking about share structure, we've got not a lot of shares out, 23 million shares, 23.8 million shares out. We're currently closing on a financing for $500,000. So we'll be just a little under 27 million shares. Our market cap is just under 4 million. So we're $3.8 million market cap. And imagine hitting anything with some decent grade here, we have a good shot to increase our stock price. This is the way we were looking at it now in terms of our approach to drilling. We're not out exploring and doing a lot of ground geophysics and sampling. We've developed our targets over the last 10 years. We've got these projects lined up. We've got our targets lined up. And we are going to go about this in a way that allows us to do the easier drilling, the all year round projects first, lower cost. And this is what we're going to be looking at in the next year to year and a half, 2 years. Infrastructure, always an important thing. It gives us a real advantage here. There is an existing mill. It's on care and maintenance. It's owned by Kinross. Again, I think that's a real decent exit strategy for us. Existing haul roads. These are not things that we have to permit or build. If we find something, all of our projects have some really well-developed roads and power lines. We're not looking at putting in big open pit deposits. We're looking at small footprint mines. And in Washington State, the difference between a big open pit is 77 required permits and a lot of difficulties, as opposed to an underground mine, which they really understand, takes 17 permits, and you can typically get that done in short order in comparison. And so in Washington State, this type of program, I think, has a reduced program. So what are our real strengths right now in terms of a company worth owning for exploration? We do have a lot of targets. These are drill ready. They're really well vetted targets. A lot of data has gone into it, and we're not exploring with geophysics right now. We're exploring with the drill. We've developed those targets. We have that built-in strategy, but I really like having this very, very tight capital structure, and this low market cap gives us a lot of upside going forward and moving into this program where we're drilling in what I would call a pretty decent gold market, maybe not at the stock level yet, but certainly in the gold price. So thank you very much. We've got a booth here. Come and talk to us if you'd like. And thanks for your time.